Good morning all. It is my great pleasure to introduce our guest of honor speaker, Mr. Venkata Swami Garu. He has 18 years of progressive experience software designing, development, integration, testing, production, support and maintenance. He has a specialized in training and mentorship, is advanced algorithm system designing and architecture security and machine learning. He completed his post-graduation from Usmania University campus, Hyderabad. I request to Mr. Venkata Swami Garu to take in the section. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Those who are live, there's a slow internet connection here, so we are trying to download the presentation. So bear us with a minute and then we'll get started. All right, so welcome everybody. Good morning. This is Venki Karpuri, as ma'am introduced. So I'm coming from psdevelopers.io, and I work as an architect. Let's look into cloud security. So, I work for security business unit. So I'm an architect. Now today, what we'll be looking at is, so security is everybody's interest. So as long as the software exists, I think the security exists. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So as long as we exist, we need security. So as long as the software exists, so it needs security. So in the world of ideal people, so it's an ideal world, let's say. Now in the ideal world, everybody is good, everything is good. The utopia, we call it. The ideal world where everything is so good. We don't need any changes to the world. We don't need to protect anything. Everything is safe. So do we still need security in such cases? We don't need any security in such cases. So then when do we need security? So when, let's say, I'm Venki, I have, very good intentions to do something, to write a software and store all of your data into the database. Now, let's say I'll take your name. What's your name? Krishnadu. Yeah. So say Krishnadu doesn't have good intentions, just for example. So then, so all the data that is stored in the database, he would like to access it. He would like to see. So where a particular engineer is coming from, like, and what is his background, what was his score in SSC, what was his score in intermediate. So he wanted to find out all that. Why? We have various reasons. Why do we want to do that? Right? So even I would like to know who is, who and all has, different connections, friends network. So in such cases, that information is not publicly accessible. Then what do? We want to go ahead and try to steal that information. Try to steal the information. It is same as, getting into a house and stealing a particular physical item. It is the same. It is just that you are storing your data digitally. And you are making an attempt to store the digital data. So now we call them thieves, those who get into, burgle into a house and then steal some things. Then what should we call these guys, right? So they are also called thieves, like we steal the data. They are hackers. So there are again good hackers, bad hackers, the white hat hackers and black hat hackers, we call them. Now, so that is a little bit of introduction about what is information stealing, and we do it for various reasons. Right? So let's say, okay, so we see this data, right? So we know we have your private photos. If you reveal, if you give me this much of money back to me, I'll give you your photos back, or I'll give you your videos back. That's a very common thing. So what are we talking about here? Private, like the private data. So which is, the private data is called your privacy. Your privacy is at stake. Do you agree? So your privacy is very important to you. You don't want to reveal some of the things about you to the world. So therefore we want to protect our privacy. So in digital world, a lot of our data is on the cloud. A lot of our data is with someone else. Someone else is taking charge of our data. Now, who protects your privacy? So privacy is one aspect of it. In privacy, in privacy we are not stealing data. In privacy, our confidentiality is lost. You see the difference, right? So we secure our data so that nobody steals it. And then if that information is stolen, what is happening is your privacy is at stake. Let's say my credit card information is in the database. And now you get access to the credit card information. That is a financial loss. I have my private information and that is lost. So it is loss of my reputation. So it's all possible, like your emails, for example, the simplest example. So you have emails, you have your Excel sheet where you have some numbers about your properties or your assets and all that. If that is lost, you are at risk. And let's say you have your Gmail and you have username and password. So that username and password is stolen. Now somebody else has access to all the information that you are dealing with. So now the Gmail, for example, or Hotmail or the Line, right? So all these are they stored on your mobile? Like your entire data is stored on your mobile so that nobody can see it? Only if they have access to your mobiles they can see it? No, right? So it's hosted by somebody else, right? The mail servers are hosted by someone else, and therefore you are able to access it seamlessly. Now you see this slide that I am projecting. Right? I didn't copy it, I didn't carry it via pen drive, I didn't carry it in another format. I accessed my Google Cloud account and showcased it here. So the cloud is inevitable. Do you all agree, right? The cloud is inevitable. In today's life, all our data is going to be pushed onto cloud. This is your individual perspective. When it comes to organizations, let's take the college IARE. Now, a lot of IARE college data is on the cloud today. So now the protection of it is equally important as much as you place the data on it. Now what happens when you place all of your important data? So why are not many companies still moving on to cloud data? To cloud. There are not many companies, right? There is still a lot of scope for moving companies' data onto cloud. They are not moving. The companies are not moving onto cloud. One of the strongest reasons is security. You don't feel secure about that our data being on the cloud, because we have to protect that. We have to protect that, and we are not sure how these companies protecting our data and how they are maintaining our confidentiality and how our privacy is going to be at stake or it is going to be secure. Now, so that's a brief introduction about what it is. So let's look into the technical aspects of it. So what makes it a cloud? A cloud. What do we mean by cloud? A cloud. So what makes it a cloud? What is cloud when we say cloud computing? What do we mean by it? Somebody stores somewhere. What is that somebody? What is that somewhere? So this is a brief introduction about what do you mean? What do we mean when we say it is cloud? Are the slides projected? Can the people on YouTube see the slides? Because the camera is looking at this direction. I just want to make sure. Right. Thank you. So now, what makes it cloud is your VMs, containers, and serverless. This is one aspect of how the evolution has also come into the picture. Right? So, virtual machines, everybody is aware of it. Physical machine, before virtual machines, we are aware of physical machines. So, what are the physical machines? You go to a hardware shop, buy it, assemble it, and then feel your processor, feel your RAM, feel your connecting cables. All that is your physical computer. That is your on-premise system. On-premise is like your in-house. Your house or your room, your office has a physical system. Like this. It's a physical system. I have it physically with me right now. And I have software installed on top of it, like operating system installed on top of it. And then Microsoft Office is installed on top of it. And various other necessary softwares are installed on top of it. Right? See how we navigate through that. Just follow me. Now, so this is a physical system. Then from there we moved on to virtual machines. What do we mean by a virtual machine? Now I have a necessary hardware, not like in the form of laptop, but in the form of huge processors, huge memory, huge hard drives, racked up in a data center, in my in-house data center. So now when I have terabytes of memory, when I have terabytes of hard drive, what do I do? I chunk them, I divide them. So I do the hardware isolation. So then each system can be configured to work as an independent physical machine. It's equivalent to independent physical machine. But when you are sitting in your office desk, right, how do you access? Is the physical machine in front of you? No. You will connect to a thin client and then the hardware is somewhere else. You created a virtual machine. So you created a virtual machine with the necessary RAM, CPU and all that, and then you connect it via a thin client and you are using hardware resources hosted somewhere else. And then you are accessing it. Hosted somewhere else is not too far from you in your organization's virtual machine and data center. So that's your physical form to virtual machine form. On virtual machine, what you can do? It's just like having a physical machine. You can install OS, you can install applications, your enterprise applications or client applications, anything that you want to. You can access your internet. It's seamless. Underlying hardware is seamless to you. It is as same as you having a physical machine and accessing. So virtual machine is like that. And then what happened next? The containers. Why did we need containers when we have virtual machines good enough serving us? So the world, how the comfort is coming to us, right? By dividing the hardware and then virtually accessing the machine, and from there you virtually access your software. So container is not only your hardware bundled together. Now once you get your virtual machine, what is that you would do? You would install operating system on top of it, you will install all other applications on top of it. Now, if you change to a different VM, right, you are accessing a different VM, what should you do? You would again install, deploy all the necessary software there. Now, when you package your not only hardware, right? Not only your hardware, but you are on top of it, you package your necessary software for it. Okay, I always need Red Hat Enterprise Linux software. And then on top of it, I need let's say Office software. On top of it, I need a Java IDE. Then you package all of them and create an image. That's called a Docker image. So now that Docker image you carry wherever you go, or you make it available via internet. So you go there on any virtual machine, click on the Docker image, your system is up and running. Like if I want to run the same image here, and I go travel somewhere else, let's say I travel to my favorite city again, so California. So I go to Bay Area and then sit there. I want to experience the same seamless experience that I was using my computer. Then I upload my Docker image and then I go there, I download my Docker image onto VM and deploy it. For me it is seamless. Same operating system, same settings that I have saved, configured, everything is accessible for me in a different place from the world. So the container image gives you not only hardware but also the software and configuration. Persistent, consistent for you. So that is your container. Now that's where, so we are talking about how we get the cloud, what we call cloud today. And then next, serverless. So what is serverless or functionless? So I wanted to have a particular functionality. Right? You want to write a particular application. You don't want to worry. So let's say you want to develop a very quick college application where you want people to run their programs instantly. So some are good at PHP, some are good at Python, some are good at Java, C++, anything. So the faculty altogether, they have written some set of functions. They say, hey, okay, you are Java, okay, go there onto the website, write your code, run it, test it immediately. That particular lecturer, should he worry about, okay, what is the hardware configuration should I be using for my function? What is the software should I be using? Should it be running on Windows or Linux? Or should I be using Java IDE? Should I be using which version of Java? Or should he focus on his application, his function that he want to deliver it to students? So ideally, the focus should be on your function that you want to write. So it is like this. Okay, let me take another example. Now you have moved from a different place to here to be in this college, right? As a professor, as a lecturer, or as a student. Now, when you want to stay, do you want to build a house from the scratch? Right? If you don't want to do that, then you skip your college. You first build the house. So that is, you compare this the same with your software. When I want to write an application, I just want to write an application, that's all. I don't want to think about how much hardware should I buy, how much hardware I should, focusing on, and then what is the operating system should I be paying, what is the license, and then what is the IDE, what is the compiler, what is the runtime. No, I don't want to build a house, I don't want to, should I be building first floor, second floor, how many rooms should it be there? No, I just go hire a residential place nearby. I hire a flat, a fully furnished flat. In fact, let's think in that way. A fully furnished flat is available for rent. So they give me the key, I go and start using it the same day. Don't you do that, right? We do that. So you take the flat keys, house is yours, start cooking, start eating the same evening. Exactly that is your software serverless computing. You focus on your main application that you want. Your focus is coming to college or teaching, coming to college and attending. That's your focus. So that is your serverless computing. When we call it a cloud, so the cloud involves all these three aspects, essentially. When you are talking about VMs, on top of VMs containers, on top of containers your applications or your functions. So VMs were essential. We wanted to build them because we wanted to access our hardware remotely. We don't want to buy laptop for every new join. My organization has, let's say, 10,000 employees. Now 10,001 employees joining. So I want to buy a new laptop. 2, 3. So my company now has increased to 30,000 employees. So 30,000 laptops have to buy. No, instead of that, so I have my data center, a rack of hardware. So I rather give access to that machine so that he can set it up his own. Then later you come up with, okay, why should he be worried about installing an operating system required software? Let me give that. So I go to container. Okay, let me give containers, images. So that I hired you for a particular reason. So I want you to build an enterprise application. The day one, you start focusing on your enterprise application. You don't need to worry about the hardware, you don't need to worry about software. So that's the history and then how we are evolving into cloud. And what we call cloud is combination of this is called cloud computing today. Now cloud computing is not just your email application hosted on the cloud. Cloud computing is not your office software hosted on the cloud. Many of the applications that we access today via our phone are hosted on the cloud and being accessible. So these are the few other details, how what has changed and how do we do it. So that's the technical information. Maybe I'll share these slides for later usage. You can access them. Well, so this is a direct jump, but I would like to give some background about, because there is so much of content to be covered in a given time. So now you have understood what is cloud. And you have also, actually, we have, to an extent, we have also discussed this. So infrastructure, right? infrastructure as a service. Now when infrastructure is hosted by somebody and you want to access it, that is called infrastructure as a service. Right? Many of you are aware of it. Infrastructure as a service. And then, so infrastructure as a service, okay, I don't want to access any of the software. I want, let's say 16 GB of RAM from you and this much of processor from you. So I can go to Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Platform or Microsoft Platform or many other vendors that we have, right? So IBM, Citrix, VMware. So many people, you can log into them and access from your web. You can request for this much of memory and processing speed. So when infrastructure is being offered to you as a service, that is called infrastructure as a service. Very simple. And then on top of it, let's say you are not worried about infrastructure. Okay, I want Windows operating system, I want Linux operating system, or I want SQL database, I want some other software as a service. That is your platform as a service. Your platform, so that you can build something else on top of it. So you can go and say per usage you will pay X amount of money, and then you access your particular software, platform software, like database. Database is a platform software. So you do that. Then on top of it, what you do today is your email application, your office application, right? Or some other mobile app. If they are being hosted on the cloud and you are accessing them, that is called your software as a service. So we used to call, right, the biggest charity among everything is your Vidya, or biggest charity that you do is your Annadana, right? So here they call it as a service, you have to pay for it anyway. So right, so software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. And then say you are not interested in a particular entire application, you are interested in a particular library, particular function. Then you go for function as a service. So these are the four models, right? What you have in the cloud computing. Now, if you are interested in building some application, or where do you fit in this? Do you want to build a function as a service? Do you want to build infrastructure company, or do you want to build platform company, or a software as a service company? So you can. So in the organization that you are working for, either a college or a company, what you can do is you can actually build any of the software and host it in your network, cloud network. So when you are building a new database for yourself, there's like the non-SQL databases, NoSQL databases. You want to build your own. Then what you would be interested is you would hire infrastructure from somebody else and you would host your platform. You make this as a service. Now this is easy, right? Don't you know all these? I think many of you know all this. Now what happens is these are all the providers. Now what comes next? Our topic is security. How do you offer security for all this? Right? Infrastructure as a service, security is my laptop is here, my phone is there, right? And another laptop is inside. Then we all leave these premises. We're having coffee. Somebody comes and steals it. There is no physical security. So there is no infrastructure infrastructure as a service has to be physically protected from physical damages. That's the only person stealing it. What if a fire accident happens? It's again a damage. What happens if a water accident happens? Right? Hyderabad, we have to talk about water accidents these days. So what if floods come in? So this is all physical protection. How do you give your infrastructure? That is not security, but that is called safety. You have to look into the safety of your infrastructure. Then platform. So operating system. How do you provide security to your platform? How do you provide security to your software? And then your functions as a service. So that particular aspect of security falls into every model that you have. So these are the things we started off with. So it is not as small as we talk. The cloud security is a very much bigger topic, as we started talking about your privacy as being at stake. Right? Your data is being stolen, and therefore, let's say just think of a hospital industry. Hospital industry, many of the details, do you agree? Many of the details that your friend doesn't know about you, your hospital knows about you.
Yes.
Agreed? Yeah. So, hospital industry, and many of the details that your own family member do not know about you, your bank knows about it. Agree? So now, think, how should they be protected? So that's where your regulations and compliances come into the picture. Your governments have mandated that if you are in a hospital, you should protect the patient's data this way. If you breach it, you are supposed to pay fines to the patient and as well as to the government for violating the regulations. So as with the banks, for financial institutions, you keep reading it, right? So many credit cards data has been like stolen. How is it happening, right? So is it because of the recklessness of the organization? Not really. They always want to protect it, but there is always a person with a malicious intention. Right. His interest is not in him, but somebody else. So that is a very common nature of human mind. So we have interest in the neighbor's things more than our own life. So unfortunately, if that takes to a next level, okay, you having interest in your neighbor is okay. Right? So maybe manageable. But you have interest in everybody else's data is not okay. So you will be fined, you will be arrested, you will be jailed for years when you are caught. So you might also know that so the forensics, very interesting web series is episodes on the forensics. Now you be ready for digital forensics. The next generation will be watching digital forensics episodes. Not, okay, some murder has happened, some theft has happened, so how the police and the CIA is going and investigating that. That is today. You guys are enjoying it. The next generation will watch about digital forensics. How this data has been leaked. How this particular byte has been transferred to that phone. How did he steal that? So be ready for the digital forensics. That's another area if you want to build your career. So digital forensics is coming up. So now all the data all the thefts that are happening are majorly digital. Okay? You also notice some of the recent movies that have come on how the data can be stolen and how the crores of money, millions of money can be, transferred and misused. So now you see we have talked about some of them here: privacy, trust, control, data ownership, data location, audits and reviews, business continuity and disaster recovery, legal, regulatory and compliance, security policy and emerging security threats and attacks. So these are the issues that we should keep it in mind when you are building your cloud application. If you are building cloud application, or if you are maintaining, or if you want to own one, let's say you want to subscribe to some cloud application, do think of it like, is that particular cloud application that I'm going to subscribe to, is it reliable? Is it trustworthy? Do I have control over my own data? You all know that, right? So your Gmail is read by somebody else before you read it. You agree with that? Right? So who is that somebody else?
Google server.
Google server. So Google server reads your email. You think, he's not a human, right? It's okay if he reads it. Is it so? So when you open your Gmail application, your ads that you see coming from the content of your email. Isn't it? How? So somebody is reading. Somebody is not a person, but a robot, let's call it. Right? A AI engine is reading and fabricating the advertisements according to your email content. Okay, so you are planning a vacation to Coorg. Now when you are planning a vacation to Coorg, you are talking to your friend, okay, how do we plan it? So they give you offers all what is available in Coorg, the best hotel in Coorg. Now most likely, as per our psychology, we end up buying one from there. So the mission is accomplished for them. So did you stay where you actually wanted to stay? No. You stayed where they wanted you to stay. So that's what happening when you have the trust relationship with your provider. So you said, why is Gmail free? So much free. Zero money. You are actually paying a lot. It's not free. You're paying a lot in terms of your private data. They know your date of birth, they know your gender, they know many things about you, what your interests are, what your regular communication is all about. So when you are trying to subscribe to somebody, when you are trying to develop something, how is my application building the trust with the particular cloud application is important. And who owns data? This is, we often take very less interest towards the control and data ownership. Control and data ownership. Now you have, let's say, you have hundreds of files of your college project work and all that. And let's say I have my, my company's data stored on the storage, cloud storage. Who owns them? Essentially, only who has access should own them. So I have access. When some of my employees will have access to that. Some of my employees will have access to that. Now, that is another domain in cloud or in general. It's called who should have access to what. Now, this is a simple example. Can anyone enter into this room? No, right? Right? So, logically, no. Now, from 10 o'clock to 12:30 during this session, can anyone get into this room? No. Then who should get into this room? Registered persons, right? So what is that registration? It's your access, it's your authorization. Okay, so you as a college has authorized people to get into this. So they have an invitation, a pass, right? A password, in other words, or a pass show. So you show the pass at the beginning and then you enter inside. So you have an authorization. Of course, we are not, what is before authorization, there is something else happening. I see it with everybody. Before you authorize, okay, so I ask Krishna to transfer his invitation to my phone, and directly show it and come inside. No, you don't allow me. Right? You don't allow me. The reason is, I don't have a tag in my neck. Isn't it? I don't have a tag in my neck. I am not authenticated. My authentication is, this is my authentication. I belong to this college first. Then getting into this room needs an authorization of this particular invitation or registration. So your identity and access management, your authentication and authorization are essential. So that's a big field again. IAM we call it. Identity and access management is a big field. You have hundreds of career opportunities in identity and access management. Now, whether it is on-premise or on cloud, you have a lot of things to do there in identity and access management. So that comes to your control, your trust, your data ownership. There is another domain, right? If you have heard of DLP, data loss prevention. Right? So data loss prevention. Now you have hundreds of GBs of photos for your example in relatively world. Your photos and videos are on the drive. Right? Now who protects it? Access IAM that we just discussed will enable to only secure people to access it. Right? Only authorized people to access it. But what happens if the data is lost? What happens if you are working for a company and that company you are sending a confidential information via email to somebody outside? You have access. I am an employee. Yes, I am an employee of the college, but I am sending very private information of this college to somebody outside via email or via chat message. Who protects it? Who protects it? So there is a domain and area called DLP, data loss prevention, where you have these set of technologies that come in and protect your data, that your private data should not be transferred beyond your perimeter. You define the perimeter, either it is on-premise or on cloud, you define the perimeter, and beyond that perimeter, you are not supposed to send it, you will be caught. So this is the digital forensics, isn't it? How your data is being transferred from where to where is the origin. So now we find it, right? In WhatsApp, somebody spreads a rumor, and eventually people will find it out. The cops find out that what is the origin, where it started. Isn't it? It's a forensics. What is the origin of the message? It's easy to find out. We think that, okay, from random number I find it out, I send it. Yeah, you can send it from a random number. But you are being tracked by your IP address, your Wi-Fi location, right? So you are being tracked everywhere. So your data, again, so data loss prevention is a technology, is a domain where its focus is on your data. So likewise, in the security area, what you have is you have all these compliances, data loss prevention, identity and access management. There's so many things that come to your rescue, and each area that is mentioned here has a scope for its own development, and there are a lot of careers. You can have your own business started up in the area. You can have your career started up in this area, and you have expertise in one of the area and be proficient in that. Well, so this I think we have discussed about it already. So each layer that we talked about, each model and as well as area has to have its own security. So we'll go deep into a few of them, given that the time is limited. So what we do, you have application security, data security, middleware security, network security. How do you protect the network security? So today, while entering the campus, there is a traffic jam, as you know, for the unknown reasons. And now there was one person at the main entrance stopped me and asked, "What is the purpose I'm coming?" And there is another security person who asked me, "Okay, what are you coming here?" So the two security checks. Again, the same security. The same word is same, no different. Whether you call it cloud security or physical security, it is the security. So they asked me about, okay, what is the purpose? Then I told, I informed the purpose and I informed, so the sir's name who invited me. So, okay, allowed, you go inside. So what are they? How do you relate them with your software, this model, these pillars? Where do they come under? Right? So you have a closed network within inside. So to protect your security, right? So they are securing your network. It's a private network. Your college is a private network. All of you are like private to the institution. No public should come in. Unauthorized person should come in. So you have established some amount of network security as well. Not only the tags. I don't have any tag, but still I am not allowed inside. So you have a network security established. So likewise, you set up your firewalls for your cloud machines. If you have obtained let's say virtual machine, or if you have obtained a platform, so you set up IP addresses, you set up whitelist the IP addresses, who should have access to it, you set up your firewalls, you set up firewall rules, port numbers. We will see that in a while. If network supports, I will show you some of the live demos. It's not going to be all theory. So network security. Okay, good. So you protect the network security. You allow only this Venkata Swami to get into the college. Fine. Then you have given me access to your application. So I go and access your application. Fine, which is good. Now, you are all the application developers, let's say. You have all developed the application. What if your application that you have developed has a vulnerability? What do we call vulnerability? What is a vulnerability? A weak point where it can be exploited. A weak point where it can be exploited. Another real world example, right? Somebody is down, right? Emotionally down. Oh, what happened? You just tap them, right? They come. So he is weak or she is weak. So in that moment, like he or she is vulnerable that moment. Then your mom comes, your dad comes, or your friend comes. Hey, what happened? The story begins because you are exploited. You are vulnerable there. That emotional moment, you are vulnerable. Are you vulnerable every time? No. We are not vulnerable every time. The same vulnerability, the otherwise also. You take an example, and you are super happy. Your younger brother or younger sister came, or your daughter came, your son came. You are super happy in that moment. Dad, can you buy me a bike? Okay, done. Next month, guaranteed. Or your brother came. Brother, can I borrow your bike for 2 days? Done, granted. Because you are vulnerable in that moment. Right? You are emotionally vulnerable in that moment. So you are exploited, isn't it? Your kids know when to exploit you very well. Your brothers, younger ones, know when to exploit you, and you know very well when to exploit your elder ones. So that moment is a vulnerable moment. So as your software, no difference. So as your software. Software is developed like we have been developing ourselves mentally. Some are strong, some are weak, Some are good in something, some are good in something else. So as your software application that you and I develop, right? Nobody else develops. It's not being written automatically, right? We develop. So what we develop has such vulnerable code. It's not written by intention. Are you super happy because you wanted to be happy? Something happened to you and you are super happy and you are vulnerable. So your people take advantage of it. It's okay. It's exploited. You are sad. People take vulnerable. You are vulnerable. So again, you will be exploited. How is software exploited in the similar way? Your application is also exploited in the similar way. So we write software by thinking that, okay, this is the entrance. We expect everybody to enter from here. What stops us if somebody opens this window and enters? Right? But our design is not that. Our main design intention is there is a door, a 7 feet door which people should push it and come inside. No, you want some hole where people can get in. So malicious users take advantage of such weak, vulnerable moments. That is weak, vulnerable code inside your application. So today, the rest of the time, we focus on that particular part. That how you write your applications, be it on-premise, be it a cloud application, right? So you are going to be a developer tomorrow, or you are going to review somebody else's code, or you are going to validate somebody's, and how the applications that you are using today, how can you exploit them? You can also exploit them. Not everybody who exploits is bad. No. The one, if you are in a sad mood, who comes and touches you, pats you, is he bad? No, he's in fact is giving you some shoulder to cry. This is not bad. So likewise, you have hackers, two types of hackers. White hat hackers, black hat hackers. Okay, so we typically get in the industry, what happens is, we do receive two types of information. The researchers, we call them researchers by the way. So you have a very good respect if you are a white hat hacker. You have a very good respect in the industry. So you find out some vulnerability in your code. They find out by doing a lot of testing of your application. And then they let you know, okay, your company, your application has this vulnerability. I'll demo you with this way. So you do this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, your application is exploited. Then as an organization, what you do is you respond to that. You reproduce that issue. Yes, we agree that there is a vulnerability and this is our plan to fix it. Then the researcher is happy. He says, okay, in next 3 months you will publish the solution. After 3 months, if you have not done any action, then they will go public. They will announce it in all the internet forums where people can take advantage of that vulnerability. Isn't it? So people can, just like your emotional vulnerability. So when your brother noted that you are super happy and he took advantage of it, what happens if he let everybody know, all your classmates, he is super happy, you ask anything, he will give it. You will be bankrupt next day. Right? So my brother won a lottery of 1 crore, so he gave me 10,000 right now. So all of classmates he will message. Everybody comes and exploits. All your 1 crore is vanished in just within few hours. Same thing will happen when your enterprise doesn't respond to the researchers or to the white hat hackers saying that this is our method to solve it. And by that time you must deliver the solution. Otherwise the next day they will open it up to the public. So then your business reputation is at stake, your money is also at stake, your financially also your business will go down. So that is the serious threat of responding to your application security issues and reporting. So you take a lead, you find out the public applications, try to exploit them. It's okay, it's perfectly okay to exploit the applications. What you do after that is, whether legal or illegal is the second thing. What you do after that, you notify the business owner. You notify the business owner, that is one way. And then, gain respect, gain reputation. The other way is, steal his data, ask for ransomware. Ransomware is not something new concept, right? Ransomware is very old. I have your gold. You give me this much money, take your gold. It's same like this. నీ ఐటమ్ నా దగ్గర ఉంది, నాకు ఇంత ఇస్తాను నీకు ఇస్తా, లేకుంటే లంచం. In a way, that's the only thing. So ransomware is a new word. No, it's not new word. It's a very old word. So people have stolen your privacy and they are asking money for your privacy. They have stolen your data, your photos, your videos, or your confidential information about your business, your IP, intellectual property. Right? So you have a patent, right? So the patent is not filed yet. They are about to file it, but somebody has stolen. Then he can also file it, isn't it? He can also file the patent. So your entire innovation of last 3 years, 4 years is going to go waste. He says, no, give me X amount of money, otherwise I will not give. That's ransomware. So that's what when you do the second part of not acceptable illegal part of being a hacker. But always, just feel free to exploit the applications. Perfectly okay. Exploit, let the organization know that you have this exploit. The amount of respect you will gain is very high. Many of the stories we have read, right? Even they will be recruited into that company if you notify such vulnerabilities. So, exploiting is very good. And exploiting requires much more knowledge than writing an application. Right? Exploiting requires much more knowledge than writing an application. So now, the rest of the time we will focus on application security, this particular part. And this, of course, you can Google it, browse it. So in application security, how we do, what we do is going to be our focus. So this also partly we have covered. Now let's see just very quickly. If you want to be in the testing domain, right? Why do vulnerabilities come? Because somewhere some testing did not happen properly. Right? Somewhere we did not test the application properly. Now these are the security different assessments that we should introduce when you are deploying a cloud application. So all the way from your secure architecture and design. The application design starts right from your architecture, collection of requirements, then architecture and design. So you should have secure architecture and application design review. You should have network penetration testing. Network penetration testing is different from your web application penetration testing. You might have heard of pen testing, right? So pen testing is typically we call it about web application pen testing. This is your network penetration testing. You will penetrate it, network layer, not at the web application layer. And then you have software vulnerability assessment, code reviews, my favorite one, and then the configuration review. Right? So in configuration review, I'll tell you one example. Even the demo that I'm going to show you also has a configuration vulnerability in the code that I showed. In configuration, people keep the username and password open. Right? Your .properties file or .config file. People keep, okay, enter your username password here in plain text, not even encoded, not even encrypted. So you have the configuration review. So before you finally go deploy your application live, make sure all this cycle, and there are more. All this cycle is tested by you. So now you have this is your web application security, threat modeling, security risk assessment, privacy risk assessment, and then breach and attack simulation. Every area has specialized engineers. Every topic in this assessment, they have specialized engineers to do those jobs. And there are requirements for pen test engineer. Right? So they only ask for pen test engineer. And when you are senior, like they ask you for your threat modeling architect. You want to hire a threat modeling architect for our cloud in-house application, cloud applications. So you have network pen testers dedicated. So every part here you have a specialization role and special set of tools for breach and attack simulation. It's a very big area. Very big area. So you have several applications developed for this, not just engineering positions. Applications developed for this job. There are games, right? Gaming industry is very high. If you have noticed, whether we like it or not, that's the reality. Any new technology first adopted by gamers. Right? Any brand new technology that is coming will be adopted by gamers. Game developers, game designers, and the game players. That is, we don't like it, but yes, that is the truth. That is the truth. So now, how do you think the games are being tested? So maybe I'm too old, Maybe the professors are too old, so they don't play games. You students, right, or your younger ones, they would love to play games now, this generation. So earlier we used to give one chocolate to keep them quiet, or one one toy, or a kg of mud to go play around. Now we don't need anything. Just one thing, mobile. You just give them, they are quiet. They are quiet. If you take away, you know the sound. Like every frequently the manufacturing company sound comes here, right? So likewise we get to hear. If you take away phone, you know what happens. So therefore, now what happens is, in the gaming industry, how do you test it? Right. So we don't see, made it a kid. So like that, you snatch a phone from your kid, that this is what happens. So your game, they don't directly go for GA, the general availability. They don't publish it. So you have different ways of testing it. With simulation, you can test it, and you go with green blue deployment. That's a deployment one. So there is a testing phase where you test. You only release the version to few gamers, not everybody. You don't make it available. What do you call that? There's a particular term.
Beta.
No, that's beta is again available for everybody.
Early access.
Early access, beta, all that is available to everybody, but early access is again for privileged customers. Here, green white testing, the deployment is green blue deployment. We call that deployment model. There's a word for it. Okay, so the testing is, we select few users, we give them the final version. So, but they don't know. Sometimes they don't know that they are playing the non-released version. So they play as if they regularly play. Then they collect the data from there. How is it being used? Where is it crashing? Where is it slowing down? So there you have a separate area, that is. And then in-house, see another one, the flight pilots. So to learn bicycle, we know how much damage we do to the bicycle, how much damage we do to the bike. Can we do the same to the flight? Right? So what do we use there? Simulators. Absolutely simulators. So the simulation application development is another area altogether. So why do we do simulation? It's a testing, right? Your learning phase, your testing phase is all because of. So these are testing part of it. Well, so there are only few that I have listed attacks, and after this we will get into the hands-on session. There are very few attacks. There are around more than 20 different attacks today. So attack is, again, it will point out where you are vulnerable, shoot you. So that is the attack. Now SQL injection, XSS, buffer overflows, integer overflows, command injection, weak random numbers, weak PKI usage. There are many more. I didn't write it. I want you to find it on your own. There are 20 plus different attacks in the industry today. You open, just open your phone and search for, latest vulnerability. You will find it. Don't search for any particular application. Just say latest vulnerability. You will find one from these 20. So where are these coming from? They are coming from the application that you have developed. They are not coming because of the perimeter security. No, they are coming because of your application that is already running in the production. So let's say you have developed a simple application that goes to your database, and you have a web interface. Student enters his ID. It comes to your business application, validates that ID, goes to database, fetches his information, and displays it back. Very simple application, right? Web page. That web page goes, checks your ID, and then queries the database. Database returns, and it renders the result onto the web page. Very easy. How can this be exploited? This can be still exploited. Your application, that your business application, is written in such a way. I don't reveal it now. We'll take a break and then reveal it. What I'm saying is, now you enter your. Again, I'll take your name. What's your name?
Akshat, sir.
Akshat. So Akshat, he seems to be a nice guy, but he's not. Hypothetically, okay. So he enters his ID. What is your ID?
504.
504. Okay. He enters 504. His details are fetched. Happy. Then everybody is seeing he said 504 and he moves on. He's a nice guy. Then when everybody is not there in the lab, he gets in. He not only enters 504 but enters something else. Okay. Then what happens in return? He sees everybody else records. That's the demo we are going to see. Okay, that's the demo we are going to see. That falls under your SQL injection example. And then the next one. Okay, the next one is again. Say we will take Akshat. So Akshat is again appears to be a very nice guy, and so he logs in. He accesses some data, and everybody thinks yes, he accessed some data, and he goes out. Then the next, what's your name? Rohan. So Rohan enters. Rohan enters and he accesses the same application, he enters some data. Then what happens is, what he sees is like, everybody is around him, what he sees is all unwanted data. He is worried, he is surprised, I never accessed this, I just entered my own just details. And how come I am able to see all these unnecessary unwanted data? Everybody sees, hey Rohan, what is this, what are you doing in the lab? So this is a private information, you should not be seeing this. I didn't do anything. Rohan is very, very, very innocent. Who was the culprit? Right? What did he do? He did a cross-site scripting. He did a cross-site scripting attack into the application so that the next user is victim. If time permits, we will also see this. Otherwise, we will see this for sure. Okay, so pause here for a break. No break? Oh, is it live? Okay, I was told we'll take 10 minutes break. Okay, then we continue. Again, hopefully the internet is faster than what it is.
Guys, 10 minutes break.
Yes, what is the way we get a faster internet here? Very simple. Otherwise, I can't get a demo or I can't do a photo. Do you know any other way to get a faster internet? So what's this one, right? Yes. Internet is very troubling, so that's why it's taking longer to showcase everything. Without spending too much of time for waiting, I thought it's a cloud security demo. So I would show everything on the cloud, so I don't need to log into my system. Particularly, so I didn't need to carry the infrastructure, my infrastructure. So because it is cloud, I should be able to log in from anywhere and everywhere. That's what I'm trying to demonstrate from logging in. Okay, let's see. Now this is a sample application, right? So let's see the output first. Let's see the output first, and then we understand what is happening in the background. Right? So very simple web application created for demo. You see that's a hello world, and then you see enter user ID. So what it is supposed to give is your data. So if I give 11, hopefully the request time out doesn't happen. Yeah. So it gave me. So there is a database, which means that there is a database. Why is it not projecting? Remove it from the database. So you see that now, so it has displayed credit card number. Now what it is, so we have entered, so there is a table in the backend which I have created on the Azure SQL server. So Azure SQL server, so which is a platform, right? The SQL server is a platform. I have got the subscription. And then I created a simple table, which is a customer table which has the ID, name, city, and all that, along with the credit card information. So what it is supposed to give for my application, okay, I enter my ID and it is supposed to give me, so for 11, it's supposed to give me the 11 IDs credit card. Well, it gave me, right? So fair, Akshat, right? Yeah. So what Akshat did is that, okay, not only this, he knows how to check if application is vulnerable or not. So what happens if you do this? He tried, he gave it a try. So it's an internal server error. Okay, he said, okay, fine, I am not worried, I'll keep trying. So
nothing around the screen is frozen.
Screen is frozen. So you see this now. So the Akshat has entered like not just one. He says, okay, let me try with this 1 or 1 is equals to 1. Malicious data. Now say go. What he got? All the records credit card numbers. All the records credit card numbers. So this input is just like that. So you know the server application is malicious, vulnerable. And you know how to take advantage of it. Just like when you are super happy, your brother comes and takes advantage of it. Just like that. So your application that you have written is vulnerable. How do you know that it is vulnerable? By making such attempts. And now you have exploited it. You not only got your data, ID 1 data, but you got everybody else's data. How did this happen? Right? What is the application? You and I are developers of such applications. How do you and how do I develop a safe application, a secure application? Now that's the topic, right? So you have understood the vulnerability, you have understood the attack, how you can exploit it. And whether it is on-premise or on cloud, cloud it is even more dangerous because you have everything you access via internet. If it is in-house, you are restricting the perimeter to within your enterprise only. But it is cloud, so everybody can access it. Whoever has the link can access it. This morning I was just reading a news that one of the most exploited one is the static passwords. Password, if you don't change it for long, it is, right? It can be guessed. It can be guessed. So keep changing your passwords just for the security reason. Or enable two-factor authentication. You know the two-factor authentication, right? So either OTP comes or a Google notification comes and you press OK. that push notification, either push notification or OTP notification and OTP authentication. Do enable it on all your secure devices. So it is this. So what is causing? Now let me show you the Java code, how the actual application is being written. Hopefully the internet supports me. Okay. So it's better I got it not bad. Now let's see what we have. This is a simple web application which connects to database. So you see, I'll just walk through a line by line. So there is these are all packages, import, and then I get into my servlet application, right? And here I set the log property, and then in doGet, what I have is I'm connecting to this driver. com.microsoft.sql server.jdbc.sql server driver is the driver.jar which is hosted, and now I connect to this driver, and then there is a file called application.properties in the same folder, which takes resources folder, which has the URL to connect, username, password. I'm skipping all that for now. So now you are obtaining the GET connection, right? So it is connected to database. Once it is connected to database, it's creating some schema, okay, which let's ignore, it is not of our interest right now. What is interested to us is that you come here. So you are asking, okay, request.get parameter user ID. You are getting the user ID. Whatever we are entering there, 11, right? You got that 11 and read it into ID, string ID. Visible now? Yeah. So you got the user parameter via web page onto ID, and then you directly select credit card from customers table where person ID is equal to ID. Fair? Very fair, everybody does the same. Now this is what? The result. If you write your application this way, it is exploitable. You can get all the information that you wanted from the table. So you try some public databases. You might be lucky, right? You might be lucky. So exploit that. Always take exploiting as a good activity. It's not a bad activity. It's a good exercise. Stepping next is the what do you do next with that information is the bad, a good thing. So this is the query. In the very first appearance, everything seems fair. Yeah, this is supposed to be this way. What is wrong in this? You have seen what is wrong, right? So you are getting data of everybody. Okay, what if I do this? Sorry, I'm pushing the back. This doesn't yield result. It's empty page. Actually, I didn't write any text for your output. Now it should come. So you still get that. So what is happening here? What is happening here? Let's just spend a minute here. So you are supposed to get one ID with 1. And then what you said, OR is a logical expression. And then you said 2 greater than 1. 2 greater than, which always leads to true. So what you are saying, select, right? Select credit card number from customer table for whatever it is true. So for every row it is going to be true. For every row it is going to be true. So therefore you get all the customer's credit card information. Where the intention, application that you have written, right on the left hand side you see here, right? This is very innocent looking statement. Select credit card from customers where person ID is there. This is how I learned in my engineering. This is how I was taught. Yes. Now what is the correction for this? This is where the day-to-day applications are very challenging. Even today you go try some vulnerable attacks, you will get such code that is being developed by people with unawareness, lack of knowledge, I would say. So what is happening there? How do we do? How do we fix it? Let's focus on that. Any hints? How do we fix that? So, what was missing? How do we make it non-vulnerable? This is all preparation code, okay? Let's not worry about all this. The connecting to database and all that is fine. The core code is this, which is vulnerable is this. You understand that part? The vulnerable part is so the vulnerable part, I think we can hear, but people on the right have difficulty to listen. So the vulnerable part is these two lines, in fact, especially this line and this line. Right? Those two lines are the vulnerable part. How do we fix it? So that's going to make us, the secure programmer, secure developer, secure, we are going to make an application secure. How do we do it? What did the security do when I am coming in? So let's relate it to the right. Ask. He asked. So he validated. He validated me whether I know somebody in the college or not. Then here the entry, the tag is another validation. So we are not just allowing people just like that. So we are validating the input that is coming in. Right? So when I am coming in, I have an input into this room. Isn't it? So likewise, when we get the input, what did we do here? We just trusted. When this UID came in from the web browser, we just trusted it. Whatever you enter, I take it. Yeah. So when you allow anything that you enter, you take it. This is what happens. So the learning here is never trust. Always validate the user input. Always validate the user input. Majority of the attacks happen because you don't validate user input. Majority of the attacks do happen because you don't validate user input. The second step in this, alright, you validated it. You are getting string from some other function, let's say not from the user. Then the second place of your error is possibly because of your string concatenation. If you use string strcat function, they are vulnerable functions, don't use them. So string concatenation functions, especially in C++, will blow you off. So don't use them. So there are now next versions that are coming which are safe. So use the safe version of those string functions. So here, what should you be doing? Validate. What should you accept as a user ID? Just digits. What did we enter there? A equal sign, a greater than sign as a user input.
No special symbols.
Right, no special characters. Not even alphabets. I don't need to enter alphabets also. So I can write a regular expression, the entered ID I take and then say validate for regular expression, is this entered number between 0 to 9. Only if it is 0 to 9, I allow. Otherwise, I reject. That is one part of it. That is one entry you safeguard. Then the next one, the select. So never ever directly pass the execute query from here. You prepare the statement first. You prepare the statement first before running your statement. We call SQL statements, right? So before running your SQL statement, always prepare them. Don't directly run the SQL statement on the server itself, on the database. Prepare them. So there is something called preparation of the statement, right? So here we didn't prepare, right? We directly executed the query. So you always prepare the statement to avoid any attacks, and then you allow it to execute on the database. Both the ways it's bad. It is to load a text file, it is taking time. So what do you do? These two steps. Always prepare the statement and always evaluate the input. Yeah. So here, what is that you are doing here? This particular function. Yes. So you are reading the content type and then getting the user ID parameter, and then you are making sure that the entered number is only between 0 to 9. Now it doesn't allow any other special characters or even alphabets. It looks so simple, but how it made the vulnerability? The lack of this statement, it's catastrophic, right? Your privacy at stake, your security at stake. And the second part is your prepare statement. So you first connection dot prepare statement, right? So person ID is equal to customer, and then for statement dot set string first parameter is equal to comma ID. So that way you are not directly pushing your vulnerable input if ever, and then you are running it to statement dot execute query. So earlier what we did connection dot execute query. Now you write connection dot prepare statement, then append the value of the variable that you want to read, and then execute the query. So these two steps will help you to avoid SQL injection. And there are a few more, like as I said, the string concatenation. Whenever you are dealing with user input, don't directly deal with the string concatenation functions. So that is one of such application security practices. Like when you are writing code, make sure you do this. And likewise, you have command line injection. Command line injection is like you accept user input via command, and that command can take you all the way to run malicious code itself. So earlier, like when I was studying, right? So the only issue was when you download some software from internet and run them. So in other words, I am downloading an exe and running it by not knowing that it is a malicious code. So when I run somebody else's application, I don't know what he has written inside. So he could steal my data, corrupt my data. So that is possible, very much. Now, you don't need an exe to be downloaded. You don't need to download anything. Your input, right? When you have a malicious code, your input itself is sufficient. So that intelligent the hacker is, that he can get into your system and he can steal your data, and then what he can do with it is data. He has many opportunities to what to do with your data. So here the user input validation, invalidation is the biggest contributor to all vulnerability attacks. Then there are few other things about, say, XSS. Let's talk a little bit about cross-site scripting. What do we mean by cross-site scripting? So we store, we store cookies, right? So and today probably you can't live without them in a way. So on a browser, if you open your Chrome browser, Firefox or Edge, you have so many cookies stored. You can view them. So cookie contains some information about your particular website. It collects some data about you. Then a malicious user, what he does is that he impersonates. So he logs in. So when you logged in, his cookie, right? His cookie collects your information. Next time it allows him, when you visit his website, it allows you to log in. And then when you log into the website with your credentials, opportunities are plenty. You can do many things, right? So that means when I am not Akshat, but I have logged in as Akshat, I can do many things as Akshat. So tomorrow, even digital forensic comes in, who will be at blame? Akshat, not me. So your user identity is stolen. So you can run malicious scripts also. You can run malicious scripts. So when he logs in, so my command, my cookie the cookie is now changed, it has another script. So he can run the script, he can steal the information, or he can damage the information. The script, whatever the capability of the script that you write, is unlimited again. So JavaScript, if you have written, right? So JavaScript, what you can do with JavaScript? You can do so much with it. So any script can be executed from your cross-site scripting as well. So it's one of the very well-known attacks as well. So this is the organization, right, where you have I think it's a bad idea to browse internet. So if you want information handy about what is the score, so every vulnerability is given a score. Okay, so that tells you how bad a particular vulnerability is. That is, if your score is 10 out of 10, it's catastrophic. That means it can bring your system down. So there are 5, 6, 7, all the score, the regular score from 1 to 10 is available. Now if we say, so you can search for a particular vulnerability. So you can use this website handy you want to know what is the impact of a particular vulnerability. So all the vulnerabilities will be published. Typically NIST, the standard that you know, right? NIST will keep publishing or tracking the standard National Institute Standards Technology. So here, this is one of the very infamous vulnerability that took many systems down a couple of years ago. OpenSSL heartbleed, it's called. So any heartbleed is like your heart is bleeding, so you are ready to die if you don't protect. So we call the severity of vulnerability with a heartbleed. So this is one of them. Now you have all the references to go how it happened. It happened again because of the buffer overflow. Okay. It is again a mistake where you couldn't control the buffer being overrun. You see this, yeah, buffer overread. So what is he doing here? So which allows remote attacker to obtain sensitive information from process memory via crafted packets. Crafted packet is what we just did. We crafted the input. Right? So it is supposed to take 11. You crafted an input saying 11 or 2 greater than 1 or 10 greater than 1. Some that yields to true. So you crafted the input. So here he crafted the packet that trigger a buffer overread. So it reads beyond what it is supposed to read. So it not only reads your record, but it reads something else. And as demonstrated by reading private keys. So my machine stores private keys. So private key, as the name says in PKI, right? Public key infrastructure. Public key, private key. That makes your OpenSSL connection. OpenSSL is the secure protocol used worldwide. Right? All of you agree. So now there are no websites usually without HTTPS. Everything is HTTP. So how is that secure? It's because of your public key, private key. So I'll have my private key with me and public key with the server. Right? Then the information exchange happens. So if I lose my private key, identity is stolen. Somebody else can, right, impersonate on behalf of me. Therefore, my private keys are supposed to be secure. Now with this vulnerability, what happened is that can overrun and then can read your private keys and then take it. So people can take your private keys with this vulnerability. Therefore, just imagine, you might think, what happens with financial data? Right? It's not just stolen, the private key. I can communicate as you are. Now I can ask for the data as you are. So this website will be very handy for you when you come to vulnerabilities. So that is with respect to attacks and application security. So that way, what we do is at every layer we have, and if you go to, I wanted to show the GCP side of the house and as well as Microsoft Azure, where how we protected the network layer. Like how do you restrict the port numbers, how do you restrict the IP addresses, how do you whitelist. You have heard of whitelisting, blacklisting of IP addresses, right? So if you don't want to allow somebody, you just blacklist that particular. And you usually whitelist it. That is, if you know only these 5 people, only from these client machines you get the access, you whitelist them instead of blacklisting something. So that's how we secure the network part of it on the Azure side. So the application that you have seen right now, right, the demo, how was it designed? How was it crafted? You have a VM. Everything is on the cloud. What we have seen, a VM, that is infrastructure as a service, I have obtained from GCP. On top of it, the platform as a service, what I have taken is Linux operating system. On top of it, I have deployed a Tomcat. So that Tomcat and my Java application is software as a service. Right? Tomcat is software as a service. On top of it, my functionality, you can call it as function as a service, or you can also call it as software as a service. That's also my software I'm serving. So it's a software as a service. So everything is on the GCP. Now I changed the cloud provider. I went on to Microsoft Azure, and there I have deployed one SQL Server instance. On SQL Server, I have created a table data. Now from my Java application, which is sitting like VM, Linux, Tomcat, and my Java app. This Java app connected to your Microsoft SQL Azure SQL Server. It connected to a database, it connected to my table, and it fetched the records. It fetched the records to Java application. From here, whoever has requested me, they have access. So sitting somewhere in the world, you can get my data. Now, if this application, because my application, the Java application, is vulnerable, you can imagine. So that's the deployment mechanism of how it has been deployed on the two different cloud providers. So likewise, if you want to experiment, right, even these giant providers do charge after a certain period of time. Then you have many of the free open source cloud providers as well. So take advantage of that. Go subscribe. When you want to run something, just go for a container. You don't need to go, okay, where do I find Linux operating system? Where do I find Microsoft Windows? Should I download it? Don't worry about it. Go Docker, get a Docker image. Deploy it on a VM, public cloud. Just start using your operating system. Have you ever done that? If you have not, please start using your, in AWS or any other space. You just go search for a Docker image. If you are looking for Tomcat server Docker image, just go download Docker image of Tomcat, so which you can deploy on top of your Linux Docker image. So it's now, how do you call, readily served for you. Readily served. Now you can call it related with your OTT world, right? So earlier you need to go book your tickets, stand in the line, or wait for the movie, existing people to come out, then let the theater be cleaned, then you go sit inside the theater. It's not when you want to take a break, you can't take it. When the theater gives you break, you should take a break. During break time, that way is very limited. You cannot take break 15 minutes. You should come back in 7 minutes. So these are all the conditions imposed by the theater system, where you go to the where the theater is offering you service. Right? But now what has happened? It is a plate. You are being served with OTT. You have many options to choose. Which one do you want to watch? Okay. No, I don't want to watch 2-hour movie now. I will watch 1 hour today. I will take 24-hour break and watch another half an hour tomorrow. So you have that convenience. Likewise, it is there in your cloud. Don't worry about, okay, shall I go to Secunderabad CTC and buy hardware? No. Shall I, buy a license for Windows? No. So shall I buy a license for Windows or Linux? No, not required. You just go pick the Docker image of what you want. Container, run it as a container. On top of it, Tomcat, run it as another container on top of your existing container. Then you only focus on what you want to develop. As an application, you want to develop an app, just focus on that. So even then, if you can't write, then you be a subscriber to somebody, right? You start using somebody else's application, pay for that service. So that's how the cloud world is today. And cloud security is unavoidable. As you see now, every phase, how it can be attacked. Application can be attacked, network can be attacked, the physical infrastructure can be attacked. So cloud security is something that your careers can be built great. And then cloud security is something which will last forever. Because we are the beginning era of the cloud. We are not saturated there. We are in the beginning era of the cloud. So there is a lot of scope for learning, a lot of scope for inventions. So even if you want to write, you want to come up with some research papers, patents, this is the best area, cloud security. So with that, I think I would want to theory part and the demo part. The internet is slow, so if I want to demonstrate the network part of it, I think that will consume a lot of time and it loses, it takes away your interest as well. So with that, I'm ready to take a few questions if you have any. Do you guys have any questions? on the cloud security, how do we do what we do in the industry. You can also ask about it. Okay, let me ask you then very quickly. What are the top 3 technologies that you must learn in order to be a cloud security specialist? SQL? Okay.
Different type of penetration methods.
Penetration methods, yes.
But you should know where, be able to find out the loopholes in the system.
Right, so the mindset is you should be able to find out where the code is vulnerable. Right? So, and then your penetration testing methods, that is for web applications. And for these applications, so that your penetration testing doesn't help you write such secure code, right? What we have seen is insecure code. Penetration testing, yes, of course, it helps you in creating, fabricating the user input, different type of user input. So that gives you very good, it's not a difficult subject either. You can spend a couple of weeks or months and then you can get a master of it. And the technology is at least one programming knowledge, one programming language, any programming language. Be it Java, be it Python, or any other scripting language as well, JavaScript. So you must have knowledge of. So then you can write programs either to break it, either you write program which cannot be broken. So both ways. So that's the technology stack. Do you think the cloud security and the before cloud, the on-premise security, are 2 different worlds? Answer is no. Absolutely. So the security always existed, so it continues to exist in the cloud security. And now in addition to existing on-premise technologies, now we will add more. So it's extension of what you are used to have on-premise security. So on-premise software security plus now the new technologies have come in, new method of accessing has come in. So the magic URL attack, heard of it? Yeah? So if not, make note and then magic URL attack. Now everything is now accessed via URL, right? How did we access this particular part? Via web URL. We went to browser and we typed in URL and accessed it. So the URL can also be crafted, fabricated, so that the attack, you can attack the server. So that brings in, what is the cause of it? It is not your data loss or it is not your privacy loss. It is DOS. Right? It's a denial of service. What happens if the magic URL, if I can bring your server down, no other user can access it, right? No other user can access it. So your service itself is down. So therefore, the DOS is business loss. The DOS attack is business loss. So that is also possible with your magic URL attacks. Yes. So there are certifications as well, especially for cloud security. So you could be a cloud security architect, cloud, as in the beginning we were talking, a threat modeling architect, then penetration testing engineers. So you have various opportunities in the area of security. And there is a lot of research work happening. There is a lot of research scope for research papers and patents in the cloud security area. So, yeah, would you like to share any feedback about the session you went to? Yeah. I should get out of that. Anybody wants to comment anything while you are here? Or faculty? Faculty, I'm enjoying more with the faculty because they are more attentive than students. Any other questions or feedback?
We enjoyed it, sir.
Thank you, Mama. Equally, I did too. Krishna or Akshat, you both were used as a characters in this. No. Thank you for allowing me to use your names. And I would encourage everybody to try being, vulnerable, making vulnerable attacks. Just identify. Not with the people though, with the system. With the system, software systems. Just go try to attack them. Alright?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful section. I requested to Venkateswamy Garu facilitation come to students also.
Yes, if you guys are interested for further education, right? You can join those Telegram groups. Many of our students from IARE are part of it. Many of them are, at least couple of them are doing internship.
Students, take your lunch and come back by 1:30. Afternoon also on business
Third period.